What's up, family? We're talking about the podcast. Is this weird? Hey, I'm here. Nice to meet you. Yeah, is that what I'm saying? You gotta be kidding. I'm not cussing. Could be bad. Here we go. Okay, so season 5 is happening. It's happening a lot sooner than I realize. And I want to give you a quick 10 peso version of what the season is going to be about. I never do this. Usually it's like a kind of a surprise, but I kind of wanted to give you a heads up so you can prepare for the crying in corners that are eventually going to happen. So, okay, here we go. So these are the 10 episodes that I'm going to do. And I don't know. Yeah, and I'm going to put them up so you guys can see them as I'm talking about them. So the whole theme of the season is what happens when. And I think these are the things that I wish somebody would have sat me down and said, this is how you react when this happens. Or this is a story in the Bible that you can utilize to help walk you through this specific issue. And so it's something I've been really excited. I can't wait to teach about it. And it's literally like my favorite people in the Bible. I'm pulling out Bible stories to do this. Okay. So my very first episode is going to be called Saint. It's going to be about the life of Mary, the mother of Jesus. I'm reading it on my phones here. And it's what happens when you say yes to hard things. I don't want to elaborate too much on what I'm going to talk about, but our life is filled with hard things and hard yeses. And when we say yes to God, miracles happen and restoration happens. So I'm excited about that one. Okay, the second episode is going to be called The Soloist. And it's all about Eve, who I love. And when I get to heaven, I'm going to Superman punch her in the ovaries. That one's going to be what happens when you believe a lie. We've all believed a lie. We've all heard something. Someone said something, whether we were kids or whether in a job or whether, I don't know, in a project or something. And we believed the lie about ourselves. And so I'm going to talk all about what happens when you believe a lie and the practical things you can do to safeguard your heart and your mind to the words other people say about you. Okay. Oh, very nice Instagram. Hi, someone's talking to me. Okay, so then episode 3 is called Stud. It's based on the life of Samson. I love Samson. What happens when your gift has you? That's the third episode. I'm putting like what they really are below, so I'm just talking. Samson. What happens when the gift has you? Here's Samson. He's awesome. Supposedly very good looking. And his gift totally had him. He believed more in the gift than the gift giver, and I am going to unpack that joker like nobody's business. Okay, then the very next episode is going to be called Savage, based on my spirit animal, John the Baptist. I talked a little bit about John the Baptist in my book, Nomad. Bing! It's here somewhere. I don't know where I put it. Maybe here? I don't know. Anyways, it's going to be what happens when you're a nomad. Haha. See what I did there? I'm going to elaborate on things that I didn't get to elaborate in my book. And then the very next week, I'm going to talk about Peter, and that one's going to be called Slayer, What Happens When You Make a Comeback. So those two, if you've read my book, I put them in the middle of the season so that you can buy the book at the beginning of the season, read the book, and so when I get to those 2 episodes and I start elaborating and breaking them down, it'll be like a cool, like, extra. Whatever. Okay. Anyways, then the next episode is going to be called Shepherd, based on the life of King David. What happens when you're overwhelmed? Homie was overwhelmed. He was also a man after God's heart, but he strengthened himself in the Lord over and over and over again, and we're going to talk about what that looks like. Okay. Then the next episode is called Sinner, based on the life of Zacchaeus, who I love. I love his little face. I didn't mean that as a short joke, but I love his face. Anyways, I don't know what his face looks like. Anyways, that one's called What Happens When Your Name Gets Called. See, that's the cool thing about Jesus is that we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to be completely whole for God to use us. We just have to be human and available. And so I'm going to break all that down. Seeker is the next one, based on the life of Isaiah, who I love. What happens when you seek? I can't remember exactly where it is. I'm sure I'll find it before I do this video or during editing, and I'll put the verse here, but it talks about how safety is found in the seeking. And that was a verse I found in a really hard time, and I think being a seeker of God and chasing God and wanting to know more about God, it sets you up for a win. And so I'm excited about that one. And then Snared, all about the life of Judas. What happens when you give up? So yeah, he gave up. But we love Judas, and we can learn a lot about the life of Judas. I've preached about Judas. You can even find a message somewhere on my YouTubes about Judas, and I am dissecting even more his life as I'm kind of obsessed with it right now. And then the final episode will be on Moses. It's going to be called Sought, When You Start Listening. And God is chasing us. He's pursuing us. He's constantly speaking to us, and when we listen, man, Red Seas open. And I'm really excited about that one. So breakdown: saint, soloist, stud, savage, slayer, shepherd, sinner, seeker, snared, sought. What happens when? Season 5. Start your year with me. Let's do it. 10 weeks together, 10 weeks seeking God, 10 weeks of making our year completely focused on what happens when we actually do something intentional. I think God, I'm going to be, our entire church is fasting during that time. So I'm just expectant to hear from God. I'm expectant to see what God's going to do in 2020. I did a video recently called Your Word of the Year. And so if you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. It's all about setting your year up right. So anyways, I Cry Corners, the podcast, is back. January 3rd, Fridays, every Friday for 10 weeks. You and me, besties forever. And if you haven't gotten the book yet, Nomad, go to Amazon or go to my website, I Cry Corners, and get it. It's going to help you on this journey in the next 10 weeks. Okay. Love you.